everybody, we are back and now we are starting with our next part of the foaming method, the two-stage foaming method, and we are going to make a sponge cake today. Remember, the foaming method is when you're using eggs, or either egg whites or egg whites and egg yolks separately to build a lot of the structure for your cake. They tend to be lower in flour and higher in egg. So the egg is really what's building that foundation as your stabilizer. So in a sponge cake, we will be using egg whites, aerating egg whites to make a meringue like we did with the angel food cake. But then we are also using the separated egg yolks. And we are going to go through a couple stages. The first one is going to be to combine the egg yolks and some sugar. And we're going to put that over simmering water so that we can melt the sugar into the egg yolks. And we'll do that, and then we'll whip it up on our mixer, and that becomes part of the batter. And then we will aerate the egg whites, that becomes part of the batter. They get combined, and then the flour goes over that and gets mixed in, and we add a little melted butter at the end for just some richness. So we will start on the stove. Okay, we are over the stove now, and we have our barely simmering water, which means there's a lot of steam coming off, and then you'll start to see some little bubbles around the outside, and you want to keep it at that temperature. So maybe you bring it up to kind of a hard simmer, and then you turn the heat down so it's just enough to maintain it. And what we're going to do is we have our yolks in the bowl with the sugar, and we're just going to hold it over the top of that water and keep whisking it to keep it moving so that you don't get any like lumps forming or anything like that. And what that's going to do is melt the sugar into the egg yolk, and it's going to thicken the egg yolk a little bit. You don't want this to get over boiling water or get too hot, and occasionally you can bring it up a little bit so that you keep it from getting too hot. You're not going to be making scrambled eggs here, but see how it's starting to thicken a little bit, the mixture? And you only want to do that for a couple minutes until you get the sugar to melt into the egg yolks. And the way you can tell is if you dip your finger in and go like this, if you feel you can feel the sugar, the granules of sugar. So if it feels really grainy, then you want to keep going till it's a little more smooth, So you wait till you get your sugar all the way melted in there. And then we are going to transfer it to our mixing bowl, to the mixer, so we can cool it down and start to aerate it. Okay, we've got our egg yolks with the melted sugar in the bowl of our mixer. I'm going to use this paddle attachment and put this on kind of a medium high for a few minutes. And what we're looking for is the mixture to get lighter in color. And then what's also going to happen is it's going to start to form ribbons, which I'll show you what that means. But that means that when you lift the spoon onto the batter and the batter drips back in, that it kind of folds on itself like a ribbon would fold if you were putting it down. So I will show you that when it gets to that point. Let's see. Okay, so we've gotten some really good ribboning here. The batter is just the way we want it to look, the egg yolks. It's lighter in color. We've definitely got a lot of volume going here. And I'll just show you this ribboning. If I stir around in the batter, see how it kind of goes back on itself like that? That's called ribboning. So that is definitely the texture we're looking for. So we are going to take this egg white mixture and put it in a larger bowl, and then we're gonna get going on our egg whites. Okay, I've been whipping my egg whites until I've gotten to this soft peak stage, which you'll remember is this kind of fluffy marshmallowy stage that it's still a little bit liquidy. It holds together, but it's still a little bit mushy. So at that point, what we're gonna do is I'm gonna turn the mixer back on, and I'm gonna gradually drizzle in this half cup of sugar, and I'm gonna keep whipping this on high until we get really shiny, really stiff peaks, which means it's like a real, it's not flop anymore. You can scoop a big scoop of it and it holds its shape. So we're gonna do that. Okay, so now you'll see we got a lot more shininess and texture, and they really will just, it really just stands up. It's much more marshmallowy, much more, you know, you'll see it holds together much better. So our next step is going to be to combine we're gonna fold the egg whites into these egg yolks, these aerated egg yolks. So before we do that really quick, we're going to whip in a little bit of vanilla. Yeah, let's give it more. And then a pinch of salt to our egg yolk mixture. And let's just give that a little fold in. Same as when we did the angel food cake. When we're folding ingredients into each other, you're not stirring, you're not whipping, you never want to use a whisk or anything like that, because you've built up just this great fluffiness in both of these mixtures. So you're just trying to fold the mixture over itself so that you can incorporate them without losing all of your air pockets. So we are going to do this in 3 batches. So let's do that. Okay, so I've gotten all of this incorporated, and you can see there's still a little areas where there's a little bit of a white streak of the egg white in the egg yolk. Don't be bothered by that. It's much better to kind of have, because we're still going to be incorporating flour, so it's much better to have the streaks than it is to over mix it at this point and lose your aeration. So once it gets to about this point, you should be good. So then what we are going to do is sift our cake flour over the top in a few batches. This is 1.5 cups of cake flour. And again, you'll remember the cake flour has a little less protein, so it's a little bit more tender. So we're gonna sift our flour over the top. Just to get that maximum aeration and all these things, because remember, there's no leaveners in this cake. There's no baking soda, there's no baking powder. So what you're really relying on is air pockets that you've made filling with the steam of your liquefier, that sugar. Remember, all that sugar that's in there is going to melt and evaporate. You know, the moisture is going to evaporate and then it's going to create steam. So now we are going to fold this cake flour into the mixture. Okay, once we get it to this point, our last little thing is to add some richness. And we're gonna pour some melted butter along the side of the pan, along the side of the bowl, because we don't wanna put it on top. It'll kind of be kind of greasy in there, and we're still, again, we don't wanna weight this down. So we're just gonna drizzle it on the side of the bowl and then fold that in as well. Okay, so we have everything incorporated. We're gonna take our 2 pans. So these pans have been buttered, and they have a piece of round parchment paper in the bottom that has also been greased, and then the whole pan has been floured. So these are greased and floured pans. And we're gonna get the batter in there. Ooh, look at that. We have gotten so much air in there that we just have a super fluffy, nice, whoop, I have some flour there that needs to be mixed in. So we have this super fluffy, yummy looking mixture. We'll get it evenly in both pans. Okay, that looks good. And then again, you want to spread it out so that it's even without pushing down on it. So just kind of scoot it around until you've got it evenly distributed. And then these go into the oven at 350 for about 25 minutes. And about halfway through, you'll want to rotate the pans a little bit so that they get kind of even baking all over. Okay, so 25 minutes. Okay, everybody, our cakes are out of the oven and they look really good. They are spongy and brown. So what I'm gonna do is just kind of run my knife around the edge just to make sure any parts that were stuck were loosened. This cake does kind of pull away from the edge when you bake it. So I'm gonna put it out of my hand. It's been out of the oven for about 5 minutes maybe. I'm gonna peel off the parchment. You can see it's all buttery and kept that from sticking on there. And then cool this on a rack till it's totally room temperature. And these cakes are, again, really light, really fluffy. They're really good if you fill them with jam and maybe top them with whipped cream. You can poke holes in them and drizzle milks in them. Like if you've ever heard of a tres leches cake, it's based off of a sponge cake. Or you can just put powdered sugar on them and serve them with fruit and they're just as good. And then we're going to pop these guys out and let them cool.